if Rulani were to come to me and be like, okay, so, ma'am, what am I? You know what I mean? I'd say to her, you're black, you know? And at the same time, I'd say to her, but you also have colored culture and experiences, and that's beautiful, and celebrate them and experience it, you know? And take what you love about it, and what you don't love about it, don't take it, you know? It's not, I don't want to say it's not that deep, but for me, it won't be something that I will put so much emphasis on. The emphasis I'm going to put on, and of course it's not an episode if we're not going to talk about the Bible. The emphasis I'm going to put on is the fact that your identity is in Christ. That's your first and foremost identity. Hi, Chommies. Hey guys.
Hello.
Welcome
Hi.
to this episode of Friendship Frequency. Good to have you all here with us. Thank you for tuning in. My name is Stephanie Ndlovu.
My name is Petronella Nonsigelelo Chuma. I forgot my name, but carry on.
My friend.
Please don't start.
No.
No, I don't know what's
No,
making
hang
you
on.
laugh.
Hang on. I just want to know the inspiration behind this outfit. For those who are on podcast, I'm just going to say, go to the YouTube channel and go check out what Pat's wearing. I just want to know the inspiration.
I saw a hat and I really was I loved it. And I think,
No, the hat I see.
Oh, this part. I love it. I dig it.
Yeah.
It's a mashed top with shells.
It's giving Hawaii.
It's
giving
giving
Moana.
I live in my own world.
It's giving your personality to the full extent of...
Very colorful.
Yes.
Very confused. Very, bright.
Bright and confused.
Bright and short with a few screws.
Right. I love it. Okay. Thank you for bringing this color to
you,
the
Mother
set.
Nature.
Anyway, guys.
You look good.
Not Mother Nature. Do you know what?
You've got a tree behind you. A plant. We've got flowers. We've got aroma. Sage.
I was just about to say now, I feel like this episode is genuinely lending to the topic at hand. Do you know, identity crisis here?
So confused.
We are confused. Well, I'm not, but
I'm not.
Move. Anyway, thank you guys, like I said, for tuning into this episode. And this episode, we were thinking around, what on earth else could we be speaking about? Truly.
Honestly.
And the one thing that came to mind is that for as long as I've known you, my friend, and let's be honest, whenever people would confuse, whether social media or anywhere else, whenever people would confuse Pat and I, because for some reason people used to say we look alike, or they would confuse the characters that we played on Scandal or Rhythm City or whatever.
Yeah, I'm always being confused for the character you play, Ingrid.
Yes. And then even now with the podcast, people are like, am I seeing double and stuff? And I can't even understand it. But anyway, back in the day, maybe not so much now, but back in the day, Pat actually used to get a little bit offended when people would refer to her as being colored.
Yeah.
Right.
True.
And I thought that this could be we thought this could be a great point of conversation, just race, ethnicity, a little bit about your, background, what you identify as, race and culturally speaking through your lived experiences, and then meeting this colored friend, colored in the South African context, because we have to be specific about that in case we have people watching from anywhere else in the world, in the South African context of being colored, what that means, and how we've learned about each other's culture, ethnicity, and ultimately how all of that then relates to identity.
Yeah.
I think that's basically what the topic is about. So must I start question one? Kahle,
Is there even a question?
Yes.
What's the question?
What are you? Besides a beautiful human.
Stephanie.
I saved it. Besides besides this.
Did you say, what are you?
I said, what are you?
Ngwele from Esihlahleni somewhere. I was a beautiful conception from my mom and dad.
Of course. And I did say, besides this beautiful human, this bright and beautiful.
From my mother's side, from Botswana, I want to say my mom's mom, my grandmother, colored. And then I also want to say my grandfather's white, Irish, I think. And then they had my mom. So colored, white, had my mom, my mom looks, I don't know, my mom looks colored, so to speak. And then my dad is a black man. His heritage is of, you've got Malawian, you've got Xhosa, you've got Zimbabwean. Yeah, so that my mom and dad made me.
Yes.
And
mixed race you, but
so
your lived experience grew up.
I think one would say I'm a mixed race because of what I look like. But I just think maybe it's because of my grandfather. That's why I probably came out more like this. But black.
Yeah. That's what I want to say. Yeah. So your not just lived experience, but when you are ticking there on that box, black. I get home affairs. That's what you tick.
Yes. I'm a black woman.
Proud, I know.
I am
you're so proud,
African
and I love
woman.
it. Black African woman.
Bogoto. Amandala.
Cool. Okay. Cool story.
What are you? Do you see what it feels like?
I didn't ask it like that.
Yeah.
Anyway, besides being a child of the Most High Kings. All right. So on my side, on my dad's side, my grandmother, a Pedi woman.
Okay.
Then with my family.
This is your mom's mom.
No,
your dad's mom.
Side. My dad's grandmother. Okay. So sorry, my great grandmother.
Okay.
Fix that. So my great grandmother, Pedi woman, with, I want to say a white man, but because back then we didn't have a lot of historical context and certain things you weren't allowed to speak about, but I would say a white man because my grandmother came out mixed race.
Okay.
Like colored looking mixed race.
Okay.
Very long hair.
Okay.
Like, and then my grandmother met my grandfather, so my dad's father.
Yeah.
Mozambican Portuguese man.
Okay.
And then had my dad.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah.
So then my dad with my mom is like colored, and I want to say some Indian, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong with the Indian.
All right.
But let's just say colored DJ.
Okay.
All right. And then had us.
Alrighty.
So, but my family is quite mixed because my great grandmother had other kids then from a black man, and so that's where the Botswana and the Gwangwas and the Dipanars and we're quite mixed.
Sure.
And then obviously during apartheid segregation happened, the so-called colored communities were formed, and that's kind of where my dad grew up, and that's where I would say my identity as a colored person formulated, because I grew up in colored communities and with, I guess, my colored, family. And so for me, when I tick the box that says colored.
Okay.
Right? Because that's what I guess identify as.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
But
yes,
I think for me it's interesting that you would be offended when people used to mistake you for being colored, because sometimes people used to mistake me for being like I've been mistaken before I start speaking. Like people, especially when my hazing braids or certain look that I have, people sometimes think that I'm Xhosa or I've been
Tswana.
or Tswana, So, and I don't get offended by it. I've never been offended by it. No, I'm just saying. So I'm interested to know.
Why was I offended?
I'm interested to know why it's something that offended you.
Is it?
Yeah.
Was I offended?
You are.
Really?
That's what I'm saying. Maybe of late, it wasn't something that offended you, but in the past, that thing offended you.
Is it?
I remember it offending you.
So growing up, I grew up in Botswana and then obviously moved to Joburg when I was like 5 years old. And growing up in Hillbrow, Beria, Yeovil, those areas and going to school, I had like long black hair, unibrow, like we've said this before. And every time I would speak Vernac, like people would be like, huh? Like people were always so shocked. And I would be like, because what's the big deal?
Yeah.
Because I grew up on my father's side of the family. So everyone on my mother's side looks colored, looks Tswana. It's interesting because even hair texture-wise, their hair is more like Afro, and stuff. My hair came like, I don't know, the Caucasian side definitely fought through, which is interesting. So every time like growing up, when people will speak to me in Afrikaans, and even now, it was always like, no, I don't speak Afrikaans. And it kind of seems like the colored people would be like, why can't you speak Afrikaans?
Yeah.
It kind of seemed as if I was denying my identity on that side, right? So then we go to England.
Yeah.
You've heard this story before, but then we go to England. I'm now the South African girl. I look like this in everything, and I was bullied and all of that. I was told I looked weird. Where are you from? What are you? And all of that. So I just used to really hate how African people would be shy to sort of like say where they're from. So they would go, no, I'm from this area or that area. When I was in school and college, we all are coming from different parts of the country. And, you're asking someone, where are you from? And someone would be like, oh, no, I'm from London, or I'm from Birmingham, I'm from wherever. And I'm like, where are you from?
Yeah.
And they would get shy, like I'm from Nigeria or whatever it is. There was this embarrassment sort of to be African. And I don't know, because I was doing drama, I was doing acting, we had to like articulation exercises every day. So we had to really speak well. And I remember going, so I knew how to speak well.
Yeah.
But I don't know, from even a young age like that, at 16 or however old I was, I just I took a stand and I was like, no, I'm going to sound like this. I'm not going to say water.
Yeah.
I'm going to say water.
Yeah.
It was things like that. I would, and everywhere where I'd go, people would ask me, where you from?
Yeah.
Because I don't know, like I didn't want to lose that African, that part of me of being from Africa, South Africa.
So would you then say, to my question, it wasn't so much an offense as much as it was that you, from a very young age, it was very important for you to retain your African identity, be it in England, be it in the context of South Africa, where you're mistaken for colored, and you have absolutely zero, well, before we became friends, you didn't really have much, I guess, context for really like the colored community or the colored culture, right?
Definitely.
So when people would mistake you for being colored, there's this kind of like, no, this is what I am because this is who I am. Like, like when you're proud of your heritage and you wanted to really, I'm just trying to, like, to my question, like why it might have offended you. Is it because of people's assumption based on what you look like that they shouldn't just assume it, or that you wanted to just make sure that you retain your African identity?
Yes.
Didn't identify with
and I had
else,
to fight for that.
and you felt you had to fight for it.
Yeah.
Which makes sense, because for me, on the other hand, like, I don't think I've ever struggled with like, I'm colored, right? But I remember in varsity, because So I studied linguistics, which is like science of languages. And for my honors paper, we had to choose what we were going to write about. So I chose to write my paper on the different colored accents and the stereotypes that are attached to them. So, if you know colored accents, I know majority of people think that the Cape Townian, it used to annoy me even with Pat, because when she'd like imitate a colored accent, she'd only give me the Cape Townian colored accent, which is like 99% of people. If they're going to imitate an accent, they're going to give you their Cape Town version of it.
Yeah.
And so, but there are other colored accents, there's Port Elizabeth, there's a Joburg, there's, Durban. And so I basically did a study on the different colored accents and stereotypes. And I did this whole thing where I recorded people speaking. And then I did a survey asking people kind of like, what job do you think this person does? What do you think their income is? Because that basically would show how you associate accent with like a certain stereotype, a certain job, a certain level of intelligence.
Ooh.
Guys, hey, I was an academic. How
many times have you been telling us this?
Please.
And you surrendered to acting.
I know.
Because it humbled you.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm still here. Anyway, so this was my paper. And then I was invited to a popular radio station to talk about this paper that I had done.
A popular radio station?
A popular radio station. Let's leave it at that. And people were calling in because they found the paper interesting. And then...
yeah.
I don't want to say like a minister, but someone like within government, like was listening, and she decides to call in. And long story short, she is basically upset that I am still in this day and age conducting either research or even referring to myself as colored.
Okay.
Because she was saying something like, I'm intelligent, and I'm I seem like I can understand things, and I'm of the new generation. What is it with this wanting to hold on to being colored? And it was actually the radio host that kind of chipped in and said, but hang on, if as a country you still have to go to whichever Home Affairs and tick colored on the box, why are you now saying that I can't refer to myself as colored, for example, right? And anyway, I don't know why she called in and had such a big issue with just me referring to myself as colored, but also doing an entire paper about colored people. And so I don't think I've ever had like an identity problem, but being colored also came with its own stereotypes growing up. That's what I remember. I remember being a presenter and having been told that I need to soften my accent for presenting because it's just a bit too hard, because sometimes that accent comes through, right? And it does. And so then I became very self-conscious of the way I spoke and the way I pronounced things. But then obviously in the world of acting, equally stereotypes and certain roles that you go audition for. And so for me, I always wished that people would have like, I don't know, that people would have a better understanding of colored culture. Sure. I also heard a lot, like when it was Heritage Day and stuff, people used to make fun of colored people. Like, so what are you guys going to wear for Heritage Day? Nice. Rollers in your hair. I kid you not, rollers. Like people come like with rollers in their hair and like in your guys and like slippers, like those old, like those blues, those hey guys, those what are they called, stokies, like those old, like I can't explain those blue slippers, rollers in their hair, or even like the cooking apron. I'm like, and now for me, right, I found it fun. Like I could see the funniness in it, but not everybody was able to see the funniness in it. And also I was a lot of the time in conversation with people like, but vele guys, what is your culture? Because if in the Xhosa culture, this is a particular type of clothing that we wear, you identify that is Xhosa culture, For Tsonga, these are the colors, and that's Tsonga. So vele for colored people. And it was like, yeah, guys, be that as it may, that we don't have a particular outfit that defines us, but colored culture by the food that we eat. And yes, you can have Cape Malay food and all kinds of things, but there's a way that we cook, there's a way that we dance, there's music that we listen to, there's personalities, there's so much richness within colored culture that came about. Yes, it was it started through segregation and kind of not being black, not being white. But then I love the fact then this group of people took that and created a beautiful group of people. And that's why I'm just like, okay, fine. We don't have an outfit that I know of that, you know, and no, like Lacoste is not our national outfit. Calm down. Neither is Spitz and any of the other Kavela people. No, it's not. It's just not. But anyway,
okay.
You know, so for me, to your point, it's like I've also felt like, not that I've had to fight, but that sometimes I've had to defend being colored and being proudly colored, because it sometimes felt like in certain instances, like I had to shy away from like owning being colored. And I was like, there's a lot of beautiful things about this colored expression. But on the other hand, make no mistake, I had no problem being identified as like, you know, something else, like, because there within my bloodline, there's my great grandmother, there's, you know, my family that's from Botswana. Like, I don't have an issue, like I had no issue with it. In fact, I quite liked it. So what I did on Heritage Days, I just dressed up as whatever I wanted. The guy said, somewhere, I'm sure I have Xhosa, I will wear Xhosa this Heritage Month. Somewhere, there's this, I decided to wear that, you know. But I know that this is a bone of contention sometimes. I might come under fire for this with some colored people, or I've heard conversations where black people would say that colored people actually have an issue with being mistaken for being black. And I've seen those kind of comments because, you know, during apartheid.
Sorry, friend. This is, I know you touched on it right now, the whole segregation and everything. Even if you just want to do it briefly. So I just want to come to me for a second. There's a show I went on a few years ago. It was to talk about the differences, you know, being colored, mixed race, and all of these things. And I really didn't like how that interview went because it was quick. It wasn't in a setting like this where it's relaxed. Let's unpack it, right? And so I will be very honest. I didn't really know what colored culture is, like the depths of it. That was my ignorance, right? And funny enough, we were friends, and I didn't actually take time out to go actually tell me about being colored. What is that? Because for me, I did have an issue with like, why are you holding on to this title? Why colored? You know, I found it derogatory, and I was just like, I did. Like, I was just like, I guess like the Americans' mindset, as to say, you know, that's what they were labeled. Like, why can't you guys get rid? Why are you holding on? Like, what? Something. Like, so I hear where that lady was coming from, because I was also there. I was like, why aren't you getting rid of this title? And another issue then I had, I don't know if this will make the cut, but it was, what do you then call yourselves when you're overseas? Why are you black that side, but why are you colored here? For those that don't see themselves as black, for example, the ones that are like, no, we're not black, we are this. So my ignorance for that, I just want you to just unpack it briefly, or whatever you, how did the whole colored thing, I know you touched on it now, but how did it like come about?
I mean, there's probably way more learned people that can give much better politically correct answers here. So I mean, I'm just going to go with my understanding. But before I start with that, I do know that there are colored people who are greatly offended if they're mistaken for black. Because remember, when you see colored people, we all know this. And Hungani, when we just started, or rather we just got married or we started dating, he'd attend certain family functions, and then he'd see maybe a family member or something, and then he'd be like, and he'd start speaking in like even Zulu, because like the person looks like black, like from head to toe, right? And then he starts in assumption speaking Zulu, and then this cousin, or whether it's a relative, would speak Afrikaans and just be like so confused by why Hungani is now speaking in Zulu. And so we would joke about it then and be like, the thing with colored people is we can look like everyone. You know what I'm saying? Like there are colored people who are literally like our friend Shanae. She's got these green, blue, piercing eyes,
light skinned,
even blonde looking kind of hair. You even get red haired colored people, but then you also get colored people that, and we're just talking about like what you look like. So we're just talking about what you look like. You look like, you know, you're like full on black, like you look like then you get somewhere Indian, then in like Tyler, for example, you know, where she's colored but looks a little bit more Indian, and how that whole thing blew up being overseas. And the fact that I felt like she felt that she had to now fight for people to understand why in the South African context she can refer to herself and does refer to herself as colored, not because she had a problem with being referred to as black, which I feel like that is where the misunderstanding comes. I understand that there are a lot of colored people who don't want to be mistaken for black, right? And I am not going to pretend to know why.
Okay.
I don't know why.
Sure.
I don't know. Is it a thing of status? Possibly. Because one thing I do know is colored people might deny this, but I do know from what my dad told me that during apartheid, colored people were given slightly better privileges. Not the privileges of white people, but they were given certain privileges better than black people, you know, because there was like, and it was messed up. Apartheid was just like so messed up, right? And that's why there was segregation, to separate, right? But, and then also within colored communities, there was further segregation, because if you were a type of colored where your hair was straight, now they do the pencil test, because you know there's colored people where the pencil is just going to fall through your hair, then you were more on the white side. But then you also get colored people where the pencil's not going anywhere, i.e. my hair, you were more now on the black side. And even then there was like hierarchy and status. So I do not want to assume to know why there are some colored people who are very offended if you confuse them with being black. I'm not like that. I'm not offended if in fact, not even confuse me with being black. You can say I'm black, and if I go overseas, that's fine. When I do travel overseas, I still sit in board meetings, and if we start speaking about stuff in the South African context, I will refer to myself as colored. But if they refer to me as black, I don't have an issue with it, right? But my point to what you are asking right now about holding on to this title, I personally, this is my view, guys, I kind of think it's unfair. So apartheid comes in, right? Through segregation, apartheid goes and says, you're not black, you're not white. We're going to put you here in this community because you're somewhere in between. Now you can imagine what that, and also the circumstances, some of the circumstances.
You're saying, sorry. You're saying black, white, but how do the color people come about?
So now that's if you let me finish now.
Sorry.
So some of the circumstances, some of the ways in which colored people were born, not all, but from things that were told to me, was not the nicest of things, because you know, like our great grandmothers, like there was brutality, there was things that were happening, right? And now you are sort of born mixed, and I don't know, born a crime, as Trevor know, like there's just like things, right, in that history. Nevertheless, the segregation happens, and you're put in the so-called colored communities, separated from black people, etc. And now there are these colored townships, and I think then this group of people now sort of have a bit of everything. We to me, it's like there are things that I can see that's like black culture, but it's embedded within colored culture. I see sometimes, you know, white, then there's the Afrikaans. And I just think we took a situation and made a beautiful group of people with certain tastes and different types of tastes, whether it's Malay or whatever the case is, and we celebrated it. And I feel like if that has been your lived experience, I didn't have the lived experience as a black person, like when I say a lived experience as a black person, like language or maybe even other cultural expressions. If I were to refer to myself as black, right, as that lady, or maybe you would have wanted me to. Now, even within black culture, is it not then that they are now within black culture, Tswana, Xhosa, what.
Different
They're
heritages.
different heritages. So you're going to refer to yourself as a Xhosa, right?
Tswana.
Okay, fine.
Xhosa.
Fine.
Okay.
So now you ask me, a colored person, don't refer to yourself as colored anymore. You're black. Okay, what is your heritage? I'm asking you, what must I say my heritage is? What has been my lived experience heritage? Shall I lie and say it's Tswana because I have Tswana family? I know nothing about being Tswana. Should I say it's Zulu because there's some black people, like some colored people who have grandmothers and what, but they have no understanding of Zulu culture, customs, or anything? No. I'm going to say colored because my lived experience and understanding and lens of the world is through that was created. Do you understand what I mean?
Yeah.
So I'm just like, I found it a little bit unfair that it must now all of a sudden, because apartheid has ended, it must be like white people gave you that derogatory, but we took it as derogatory as it was, and we created something beautiful out of it, which is colored culture, colored customs, colored food, colored whatever. Be it that in and of itself, it's probably a blend of all the other worlds. Do you know what I mean? Because I can see the Afrikaner influence.
Sure.
I can see the black influence.
Sure.
I can see there's many influences within it. And I think it's not necessarily a matter of confusion, but I think it's a beautiful blend of differences that should be celebrated. And it's fine. It can be called colored. And I personally enjoyed seeing on TikTok and stuff like that with the whole Tyler thing and black and colored. There was a lot of South Africans and black South Africans that was basically just telling Americans off and telling them, guys, calm down. Not everything has to be understood by you guys.
Yes.
This is a group of people that we recognize in our country, that we celebrate in our country. And she is very much within her right to refer to herself as being colored and black.
Yeah.
What's the problem?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
I think maybe for the Americans, they were also given this term.
Yes.
Everywhere,
and it was
the buses, whether it was toilets, whether it was ever their experience. And I think then they were like, we're not going to take that title. I think because they decided that title, doesn't work for them. They don't want that title, and they got rid of it, and now it was African American, right? So maybe they thought, Uguti, you guys, like colored people, should be able to do the same,
and call ourselves African. Okay,
just African, I guess, because you guys are African.
But we are African.
So
I just think that there's a difference between, to sum this, like I think that there is a difference to be noted between race, between culture, and between...
Is it ethnicity?
Is it ethnicity?
Yes, because you taught me that you once asked me this question.
And I think
let's break it down.
Okay, let's try and break it.
Sure.
So, race.
Black.
Okay, black.
Okay.
Then what was it? Race? Culture.
Colored. Culture, Tswana, Xhosa, African, Zimbabwean, all of it.
Ethnicity. Ethnicity?
I forgot.
So, race, according to some research, is a social construct, often but not always referring to skin color or physical features, but it can overlap sometimes with culture and identity, right? So race is a social construct that refers to skin color or certain physical features, but race can overlap with culture. Then ethnicity is your national background that one does or doesn't identify with. That's your ethnicity. So, for example, for me, there's Mozambican and there's Pedi and there's also this Jewish bloodline, right? But I'm South African. But I don't identify with the Mozambican. I don't identify with the Pedi. I don't identify with the Jewish. But my background, my ethnicity, so to speak, is all of those those things. Just like with you, there's the Irish ethnicity, but you don't necessarily identify with it. So maybe another term would be like your bloodline. Like, what is your bloodline? Although our bloodlines are all just so mixed, but your bloodline is like your ethnicity. You don't necessarily identify with it, right? And then culture is ideology, social behavior, language, religion, and customs that characterize a way of life, i.e. being colored. So the culture is what I'm trying to say. There's a colored culture. The ethnicity is the makeup of if my father was Mozambican, Jewish, yada, 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 or whatever the case is, that's there in terms of ethnicity. But the thing about all of these things is that they can overlap, right?
They do.
And they do overlap, especially, when it comes to race and culture and identity and those kinds of things. And I thought this was very interesting because it painted this picture in my mind where it's like, colored is not a race.
Number one.
Colored is not a race, in my opinion. Even though when it says race.
Do they really have it there?
They still have it. When I still have to tick and fill out forms, it's still there under race.
Okay.
Right? But I think I would more say that it's a culture. Maybe some people are going to say it is a race. I don't know. And then ethnicity being a whole mix of stuff that you may or may not identify with.
Okay.
I don't identify with a lot of my ethnicity.
Okay. Earlier on, I wasn't taking a jab when I was saying, you
oh no, you want to backpedal.
The accent does come out, ne? When you with your family, the accent comes out.
But I don't know what accent that was, because that's definitely not my accent.
I'm joking. But your accent, Shem, it comes out.
Of course.
With me too.
Yeah.
So it's not a jab because I do identify with my ethnicity because my ethnicity is made up of so many things, right? When I go to Botswana or when I'm speaking to my sister on the phone or when I'm speaking to my friend Palisa, Kimusutu, I will naturally go, there's certain words, and there's certain things that I think.
But ethnicity also refers to the fact that you are Irish, part Irish from your grandfather, right? No. How can you say identify with your ethnicity? It's part of your ethnicity.
Yeah, that one vele.
It's part of your ethnicity.
I said yebo.
Yes.
I can see it. Siyayibonga.
But you don't identify with it.
I don't. Kanjani manje mngani wami?
How can you saying you identify with your ethnicity?
Oh, the other ones.
Hey! Guys, any which way. All right. Okay,
I
see it.
Identify with the other
ones.
That's
fine. Anyway, long story short of the story of this whole thing, let's bring it to, for me, like having identity. It is very easy to have an identity crisis in today's day and age and time. I think in the South African context, I've heard many times colored people saying, we didn't belong here then, we don't belong here now. There's all this confusions. You've spoken about, how it was confusing for you because you looked like this, but then you didn't speak this. As actors, what roles do you actually go for? You can't go for the colored roles because you don't have, like, most of the colored roles require Afrikaans and you cannot speak Afrikaans. You go for mixed race roles more than anything else, but you also want to go for the black roles, but then,
I'm also limited.
You're limited because you don't look like the, what's the word?
Typical? No?
Yeah, maybe typical. I don't want to say typical, but you don't look that certain type of way. So there's all these complexities, around that. And so for me, I think that if Rulani were to come to me and be like, okay, so, ma'am, what am I? You know what I mean? I'd say to her, you're black, And at the same time, I'd say to her, but you also have colored culture and experiences, and that's beautiful, and celebrate them and experience it, and take what you love about it, and what you don't love about it, don't take it. It's not, I don't want to say it's not that deep, but for me, it won't be something that I will put so much emphasis on. The emphasis I'm going to put on, and of course it's not an episode if we're not going to talk about the Bible. The emphasis I'm going to put on is the fact that your identity is in Christ. That's your first and foremost identity. Like who you are in the Lord is where my focus is when I'm raising Rulani. That's going to be the first and foremost thing.
Amen.
And the rest of the culture, ethnicity. And I will say to her, I will encourage her, learn about your Tonga heritage, that what's that thing called? I forgot now. There'll be so mad.
They made a whole outfit for you, my friend.
What is that thing called? Mo,
can I?
What's that thing called? Shim. I'm sorry. Anyway, your hips go. Anyway, I wanted to have one of those, and I wanted to, and if they have Heritage Day at school, she can decide which way she's feeling motivated to go. Sure. It's okay. You know what I mean? It's fine. But first and foremost, you are a child of the Most High God, and your identity is found in Him. Who you are is in who He is, and that is who you are, and the rest of it, kigrand.
There was something when you were talking about Rulani, and the light bulb.
Here, I have a question for you.
Okay.
Speaking on this. So, Sipho, for example.
Yeah.
Sipho's dad is Jamaican.
Yes.
Right? Sipho's mom
is this.
Beautiful, colorful. Beautiful, colorful human, right?
Yeah.
What would you say Sipho's lived experience is what he identifies with? Because from a language side, we know Sipho is where it starts and ends where it comes to.
Okay,
so but I'm just saying, I'm giving you a practical example of the times that we're in. So Sipho and most of the kids, right?
So here's the thing. It's like
but he's not going to identify with his Jamaican ethnicity.
He's not going to speak Patois.
Even if he doesn't speak it, I'm saying with the he did not grow up with any of that.
Yes.
So he doesn't have any kind of reference to being Jamaican, whether it's the customs, whether it's the whatever of the culture.
Yeah.
He does not have that.
Sure.
Yet his bloodline, he doesn't identify with the culture, but his ethnicity is that it is.
Okay.
Do you get what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
Whereas race, he's black.
Yeah.
Black Jamaican.
And then he's beautiful. Black with curly hair.
Looking like an Ethiopian. I love it. Somalian, actually. Sorry.
Beautiful.
You also look Somalian sometimes.
I look Ethiopian, I know.
Is it Ethiopian?
Ethiopian.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's, more acting roles over here. Anyways, moving on. So I've also got this thing of, so with Sipho, I had him when I was young. I had him when I was in England. I never spoke vernac that side and everything. When I came back to South Africa, I had to quickly get rid of that accent and also quickly pick up the vernac again. So I kind of feel like I failed Sipho when it came to teaching him Zulu or any other type of African language. So he only speaks English, right? I've had to work hard with Tamaku. Tamaku ngumXhosa. So with the dad side, Tamaku understands Xhosa fully well, but Tamaku's first language was Xhosa. However, I think because of the speech situation and going to school and going for speech therapy, he's having to now, he only speaks English because he's not confident in speaking English anyway, any languages. So now, and then now Jiggy I'm also teaching him. Yeah. So for me, it's just very important. I don't know if this is even part and parcel of what we're even talking about. I think it's very important for people to definitely speak their languages, right? That's just like, when you look at me like that, what are you thinking? Anyways, so for me, I feel like it's very important,
I get that, but the other thing I have is like, why is it such a thing if your language is English, it's English? Like sometimes
I'm just like, it's weird for a black person not to be able to speak some type of vernac.
Yeah, but sometimes that's their reality, and sometimes they had no control over that, and to be made to feel bad by the older folk, I feel is also unfair. Yeah. Sometimes it has nothing to do with whether you wanted to or didn't want to, but I feel like sometimes, especially like people make it such a problem that you must feel bad about something that you didn't even have control over, and it must almost feel as though you were ashamed of that in the first place. And I'm just kind of going like, Haibo guys, if I was sent as a child to an English school, right? If English was primarily spoken most of the time, 90% of the time, right? And then they're like, yeah, but later on in life, why didn't you learn? You know what I'm trying to do? You know even how hard it is to now pick up a language when you 18, 19 years old? Then you have social media and everything else that operates primarily in this universal language, English. I just feel like sometimes then to make someone feel bad for not speaking anything else but English is just unfair, because like Sipho, for example, Sipho can't be blamed for the fact that he can't speak Zulu.
Yeah,
because
that's
honestly speaking, yes, but what I'm saying is I'm not saying it to make you feel bad.
Yeah.
But then if Sipho now goes to Mang Mang or whatever the case is, and he can't speak Zulu, but his name is Sipho, and now he must develop a complex about it, I feel like it's unfair, because what did he have to do with it? And now, do you know, like in school, like a varsity, the reason I did communicative Zulu was because I was so tired of people saying the entire time, yeah, you're in South Africa, you need to learn a black language. Not because I had a problem learning it, but because I was just like, okay, Afrikaans doesn't apparently count, or my Afrikaans is not strong enough to be considered strong enough for the Afrikaans person, and no, but it wasn't okay to just be like one language. And I think it's beautiful to know multiple languages, but not everybody has that brain to acquire languages, you know? And so sometimes you get into settings and it actually feels uncomfortable. Like I know when I married into the Tsonga family, it was as if I was not trying. Why are you not trying? Why are you not trying to actually speak? Because then I could speak to Hungani's grandmother and be more comfortable. And it's like you become so self-conscious about getting it wrong, but also just accept me the way I am. I speak English. Haibo. Like the statement you make about, like, what did you just say?
It's important.
It's important for an African person to know their language. I can see the importance of that, but I also want to say that your guys offer a little bit of grace sometimes for the African person who knows only English to know a count or fault of their own, whether it's any other reason.
Okay, there are, I know people, abanye abantu go, do you know what? My child doesn't need to know an African language. My child needs to shoot to go overseas and leave, like South Africa. They need to learn Spanish. They need to learn French. They need to learn Mandarin. You understand? Some people are not even trying to teach their kids African languages. I have nkinga. No,
So you have a problem with
that?
I
have a problem. I have a problem that you and a household, right? As abantu abamnyama, whatever heritage it is that you are, and you speaking English, I have a problem with that, right? As I am saying, I feel so bad for umtanami, right? When a black person, whether it's whoever, an uncle, an auntie, comes and starts speaking, and my child's like, sorry, I don't understand. Do you know who's to blame? It's me who's to blame, not my poor baby, because I should have pushed. At the same time, I was still learning isiZulu as well. So I really feel bad. That's why I'm like, okay, with Utamako, he needs to learn, not his father's tongue, right? So that's just on that. I blame the parents.
Okay, fine. And I'm saying, I hear you. I do think it's important, but I also think that it's your household, it's your family, and it's your kid.
Yeah.
I'm not going to prescribe to you what I think should and shouldn't happen. If in your household you feel like it's not important for my child to know the language that's here, that's your prerogative as that child's parent. For me, I'm gonna more push for other things that I think is important, that I think children should know. Do you know what I mean?
What that is.
And we know what that is for me. And for another household, what I deem as priority is not the priority. So in my household, Hungani speaks to Rulani in Tsonga. That time my child goes to a preschool where there's a lot of Afrikaans as well. I speak English,
and also,
you know.
It wasn't like, oh, we're taking her to this preschool.
It just so happened that I love the preschool. It's the
and
closest, and it's amazing, and it's Christian, and it's Afrikaans. And so for me, I valued the fact that it's a Christian preschool before the fact that there's a lot of Afrikaans at the preschool. But at the same time, Hungani being the only one speaking to Rulani in Tsonga, chances are her Tsonga is going to come up probably not as strong, right, as English. Now, must she feel bad now when she goes and visits the grandparents that she can't speak in Tsonga? I don't think so. Nor should I think that we should feel like we failed because she doesn't know how to speak Tsonga. I just think that if it's that home's decision, I'm not going to tell you that your decision is wrong as to how you feel that should go.
Yeah.
You keep it to your family the way you want to do it in your family. But should every kid know how to pray? Yes.
We see all of this. We see languages, we see ethnicity, we see race. We appreciate it, right? It's made us who we are as, our earthly experience. You are right. Our identity is in Christ, right? He's not a white or black Jesus, whatever it is. We just, right? That's where our identity is. Now, when it comes to, I was just thinking about something. When it comes to now our identity being in Christ, we've got customs.
Yeah.
Right. And now, for example, I'll give you an example. Is it Zulu, Xhosa, maybe all of them, right? Now you're a Christian person, right? And now you're getting married. Now there are certain things and customs you have to do as people that identify as a certain heritage. And I just wonder, how would that even work? Oh, okay. To give you an example. Ukamaku, when he turns 18, he has to go to the mountain. And now I don't necessarily want that for him.
Okay.
I don't necessarily believe in that.
Okay.
Sipo was taken to the hospital.
Yeah.
Right. But now I have to respect a certain day. I take Kamaku to the doctors. I knew what I signed up for. Now I have to respect the culture, the Xhosa culture, and say this is their their path into manhood. So there is definitely having to try and find our balances here as African people, African experience. Yet our identity is in Christ.
I think my short answer to that would be, I am all for customs. I am all for traditions. But if it's going to contradict the word of God, I'm not for it. And that is on you. The onus is on you to find out if it contradicts. If a custom or tradition contradicts the Bible. That's on you to find out. So what I'm saying is, there are some traditions, cultural things. It doesn't contradict. It's a tradition. It's something that you do and you've grown up doing, and there's nothing about it that contradicts the word of God or not just contradicts, but goes against the word of God. And then I think maybe there are some cultural things that overlap or might contradict the word. So, for example, I'm not going to mention, I'm just saying if there was a tradition that required you to, I don't know, have certain idols or something like that. That's a direct contradiction of idolatry, in the sense of, you can't, they'll maybe say it's venerating or, it's acknowledging, but really, really sometimes it might be worshiping, and being able to know one from the other is going to depend on how much time you spend in the word of God. So if you are in a marriage, a family, or a relationship or whatever, that in which cultures, there's what is it called? Culture overlapping or intercultural.
Sure.
I don't know if that's the word, but anyway, different cultures. My thing as a believer, first I'm a Christian before I am colored.
Okay.
I am Christian before I am even African. I am Christian before I'm anything else. Yes. Therefore, my Christian customs are going to come before anything else. Or not Christian customs. My Christian faith and belief is going to supersede any other things, right? But then there are things that I think it doesn't matter. So your question would be, with Kamaku, would have to be, well, why don't you want him to, go get initiated or go to the mountains? And I don't know, I'm not going to sit here and know what happens there and, what the thing is that they do.
It's a safety thing, obviously.
Yeah, so if that's also a thing for you,
I know that's
a question that's something that you'd have to answer. But I do know that there are some traditions that directly contradict or go against the word, and that's where I draw the line. Other things, It's neither here nor there. If it's not a matter of contradicting the Bible, then I'm like, go for it, celebrate it. You know what I mean? Alrighty. All right, guys. So that's the end of this episode on culture, heritage, ethnicity, race, identity, and all of it. Yeah, we hope you guys enjoyed it. Tell us some of your, in the comment section, some of your,
probably missed some stuff, guys.
But tell us maybe some of your thoughts on this topic. Thank you again for tuning in. Don't forget to like, don't forget to share, don't forget to subscribe, and don't forget
don't. You don't have to say.
I have to say,
no, please don't
when you
say.
came dressed like Moana.
No, don't.
How you are screaming threads of grace, and I must not mention it.
Don't.
And don't forget, if you want this beautiful Moana Hawaiian outfit, hey Mo, if it's something that you want, me. Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Bye.